Writing. Trust everything is moving into place. If your life feels like it is falling apart right now, listen carefully. It may actually be falling into place. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not being punished by life. Some things are simply being removed, rearranged, delayed, and redirected because the person you are becoming cannot live the same life you once accepted. Welcome back to Inner Steel. Today, I want you to slow down. Take a breath. Put aside the noise for a moment and listen with an open mind. Because there are seasons in life when nothing seems to make sense. You work hard, but the result does not come. You love someone, but they walk away. You make plans, but circumstances destroy them. You pray for an opportunity, and instead you receive silence. You try to hold everything together, but one thing after another seems to disappear. And eventually you begin asking yourself, why is this happening to me? But what if the better question is, what is this preparing me for? What if the closed door is protecting you from a room you were never meant to enter? What if the delay is developing patience you will desperately need later? What if the person who left created space for you to finally meet yourself? What if the failure was not the end of your story, but the end of an old version of you? This is the mindset of a person who develops inner steel. You do not need to understand everything immediately. You need to trust yourself enough to keep moving. And if you are building that kind of strength, subscribe to Inner Steel. This channel is for people who want to become calmer, stronger, wiser, and harder to break. Now let us begin. 1. Stop panicking when life changes direction. One of the hardest lessons in life is learning that a change of direction is not automatically a disaster. Sometimes you have a picture in your mind of exactly how your life should unfold. You have the career, the relationship, the home, the money, the friends, the timeline. You imagine yourself reaching certain milestones by certain ages. Then something happens. The relationship ends. The job disappears. The opportunity goes to someone else. The plan fails. And suddenly you feel like you have lost control. But here is something you must understand. Losing your plan does not mean losing your future. There was a man named Daniel who spent years preparing for one particular career. He studied. He sacrificed weekends. He turned down distractions. He built his entire identity around becoming successful in that field. Then, just as he was finally getting close, the company he was depending on shut down its entire department. Daniel was devastated. He spent weeks telling himself that everything he had done was wasted. One evening, he sat alone in his room looking at the certificates on his wall. He said, "What was the point?" But months later, something unexpected happened. A friend asked him for help with a small business. Daniel agreed. The business grew. Eventually, he discovered that the skills he had developed for the career he never got were exactly the skills he needed to build something of his own. The door had closed. But the road had not ended. It had changed. That distinction can save you from unnecessary suffering. When life changes direction, your first instinct may be to fight reality. You say, "This wasn't supposed to happen." Maybe it wasn't. But it happened. And your power begins when you stop arguing with what has already happened and start asking what you can do with what remains. Stoicism teaches us to separate what belongs to our control from what does not. You cannot control every event. But you can control your response. You cannot force a door open. But you can decide what you do when it closes. You cannot command another person to stay. But you can decide who you become after they leave. You cannot control the timing of every opportunity. But you can prepare yourself so that when opportunity arrives, you are ready. So when life changes direction, do not immediately call it failure. Pause. Observe. Learn. Adjust. Move. Sometimes the road disappears because you are being redirected toward a better road. And sometimes the road disappears because you have been walking in the wrong direction for years. Either way, panic will not help you. Clarity will. 2. Do not confuse delay with denial. There is a painful space between wanting something and receiving it. That space is called waiting. And most people hate waiting. We live in a world that teaches immediate gratification. You want information, you search for it. You want food, it arrives. You want entertainment, it is available instantly. But life does not operate according to your preferred schedule. Some things require years. Some relationships require maturity. Some opportunities require preparation. Some dreams require you to become a different person before you can carry them. Imagine planting a seed. You put it into the soil. You water it. You protect it. Then you look at the ground the next morning. Nothing. You check again. Nothing. A week passes. Still nothing. Would you dig up the seed every few days to see whether it is growing? Of course not. You understand that something can be happening beneath the surface even when nothing is visible above it. Your life can be the same. There may be progress you cannot see yet. Your discipline may be growing. Your judgment may be improving. Your emotional control may be strengthening. Your network may be expanding. Your character may be developing. Your future may be quietly assembling itself while you complain that nothing is happening. There was once a young woman named Amara who wanted to start a business. She spent 2 years trying. Every attempt failed. She launched products that nobody bought. She approached people who rejected her. She applied for funding and was turned down. Eventually, she became embarrassed to tell people she was still trying. She began believing that life had chosen other people for success. Then she looked back at the previous 2 years. She realized something. She knew more now than she had known when she started. She understood customers. She understood marketing. She understood pricing. She understood rejection. She understood herself. The business had not yet succeeded. But the person capable of building the business was finally emerging. That is what delay can do. Delay can prepare you. So stop saying, "Nothing is happening." Instead ask, "What is being developed inside me while I wait?" Because sometimes the greatest thing happening in your life is invisible. 3. Let people leave without chasing them. This may be one of the hardest lessons you ever learn. Not everyone who enters your life is supposed to stay. Some people are chapters. Some are lessons. Some are temporary companions. Some are mirrors. And some are simply people whose paths eventually separate from yours. But when someone leaves, many people immediately chase. They send messages. They explain themselves. They beg. They demand answers. They replay old conversations. They ask what they did wrong. They attempt to force something that has already changed. But there comes a moment when dignity must become stronger than attachment. Imagine holding sand in your hand. The tighter you squeeze, the more sand escapes through your fingers. Sometimes relationships are similar. You cannot force genuine connection. You cannot force loyalty. You cannot force love. You cannot force someone to value you. And you should not have to. A man named Michael once spent months trying to repair a friendship that had already died. Every conversation became an argument. Every message became an explanation. He kept thinking that if he could just find the right words, everything would return to normal. One day, an older man told him, "You keep trying to revive something because you are afraid of admitting that it is over." Those words hurt. But they changed him. Michael stopped chasing. He focused on his work. He returned to his family. He started exercising. He began reading again. He rebuilt his confidence. Months later, he realized something important. He had spent so much energy trying to keep someone else in his life that he had abandoned himself. Never make that mistake. If someone chooses to leave, let them. You can be hurt without becoming desperate. You can miss someone without pursuing them. You can love someone without surrendering your dignity. Sometimes the space created by someone's departure is exactly where your next chapter begins. 4. Stop trying to control the timing of your life. You may believe you are late. Late to success. Late to love. Late to financial stability. Late to your purpose. Late compared with your friends. But compared with what? Life is not a race with one universal clock. One person may succeed at 22. Another may succeed at 45. One person may meet their partner at 20. Another may meet them at 50. One person may discover their purpose early. Another may spend decades searching. The problem begins when you turn someone else's timeline into evidence that you are failing. Consider two trees planted in different environments. One grows quickly. The other grows slowly. Would you call the slower tree a failure? No. You would examine the soil, the climate, the roots, the environment. You would understand that growth has conditions. You are the same. Maybe your journey is taking longer because you are building deeper roots. Maybe you needed experiences that someone else never had. Maybe you needed failures that taught you lessons success could not teach. Maybe you needed to lose certain people so you could stop depending on their approval. Maybe you needed years of uncertainty to develop the resilience that will later become your greatest advantage. Do not rush your becoming. The oak does not apologize for taking longer than the grass. Your life does not need to look impressive every year. Some years are for building. Some are for healing. Some are for learning. Some are for surviving. Some are for expanding. Some are for becoming quiet. Do not judge an entire life by one difficult season. 5. Trust what you cannot see yet. There are moments when you must keep walking without having the full map. That requires faith. Not blind faith, but the willingness to continue when the evidence is incomplete. A mountain climber does not always see the summit from the path. Fog may cover it. Clouds may hide it. The climber may see only the next few meters. But the next few meters are enough. You do not need to know exactly how everything will work out. You need to know your next right step. That is all. A young man once lost his job unexpectedly. He had bills. He had responsibilities. He had no immediate replacement. For the first few weeks, fear controlled him. Then he changed his approach. Instead of asking, "How will I fix my entire life?" he asked, "What can I do today?" He updated his skills. He contacted people. He applied for positions. He exercised. He maintained his routine. He refused to let uncertainty destroy his discipline. Eventually, he found work. But more importantly, he discovered that his ability to remain steady under pressure was greater than he had believed. You may be in that kind of season now. You may not know what happens next. That is okay. You do not need the entire staircase. Take the next step. Then another. Then another. One day you will look backward and realize that the path made sense only after you walked it. 6. Some losses are protection. We usually interpret loss as punishment. But sometimes loss is protection. You lose the job that was destroying your confidence. You lose the relationship that constantly made you question your worth. You lose friends who only appeared when you were useful. You lose an opportunity that would have taken you away from your values. At first you mourn. Later you understand. A woman named Sarah once spent years trying to keep a relationship alive. She constantly made excuses for disrespect. She ignored warning signs. She told herself that love required endurance. Eventually, the relationship ended. She was devastated. For months, she believed she had lost the best thing that ever happened to her. Then she started rebuilding. She rediscovered hobbies. She repaired friendships. She became financially independent. She learned to set boundaries. She began respecting herself. Years later, she said something powerful. "I thought I was grieving the loss of the relationship. I was actually grieving the person I thought I would become inside it." Sometimes you are not losing your future. You are losing a future that would have made you smaller. That is why you must learn to release without immediately understanding. Not every closed door requires an explanation. Sometimes the closed door is the explanation. 7. Your current struggle may be building your future strength. Nobody becomes strong by avoiding every difficulty. Strength is developed through resistance. A muscle grows because it is challenged. A mind becomes resilient because it experiences difficulty and learns to remain functional under pressure. A character becomes stronger when temptation appears and you choose discipline. Your difficult season may be training you. There was a young athlete named David who kept losing competitions. Every loss embarrassed him. He wanted to quit. His coach told him, "You keep measuring yourself by the scoreboard. Start measuring yourself by what the losses are teaching you." David began recording every mistake, every weak decision, every moment he lost concentration, every physical weakness. Instead of being ashamed of failure, he studied it. Months later, he became a completely different competitor. The losses had become lessons. Your life can work the same way. Ask yourself, what is this struggle teaching me? Patience? Discipline? Boundaries? Humility? Courage? Independence? Focus? Self-respect? If the answer is yes, then the struggle is not meaningless. Do not waste pain. Learn from it. 8. Stop explaining yourself to people who have already decided to misunderstand you. There is a point where explanation becomes exhaustion. You tell your side. They reject it. You explain again. They twist it. You clarify. They misunderstand again. Eventually, you realize that the problem was never a lack of information. They simply wanted a version of you that supported their opinion. You do not have to attend every courtroom where someone has placed your character on trial. Your life will speak louder than your arguments. Imagine a tree standing in a field. Someone walks past and says, "That tree is useless." Does the tree begin defending itself? Does it chase the person? Does it demand an apology? No. It continues growing. That is the kind of quiet confidence you need. You do not need everybody to understand you. You need to understand yourself. 9. Become comfortable with uncertainty. A powerful person is not someone who knows exactly what will happen. A powerful person is someone who knows they can handle whatever happens. That is different. If your peace depends on certainty, you will always be anxious. Because life is uncertain. People change. Markets change. Jobs change. Plans change. Health changes. Circumstances change. But you can develop something stronger than certainty. You can develop adaptability. A sailor does not control the wind. The sailor adjusts the sails. That is your responsibility. You cannot control every circumstance. Adjust. You cannot control every person. Adjust. You cannot control every setback. Adjust. You cannot control tomorrow. Prepare. This is how inner steel is built. 10. Do not make a permanent decision because of a temporary emotion. Pain can make everything look permanent. When you are angry, you think the relationship is finished forever. When you are rejected, you think nobody will ever choose you. When you fail, you think you will always fail. When you are lonely, you think you will always be alone. But emotions are weather. They move. A storm can feel endless while you are standing inside it. But storms pass. Before making major decisions during emotional moments, pause. Sleep. Walk. Think. Write. Breathe. Give yourself distance. One night, a man named James received a message that deeply angered him. His first instinct was to respond immediately. He wrote a long message. He insulted the person. He explained every grievance. His finger hovered over send. Then he remembered a rule he had created for himself. Never send a message while your emotions are at their highest. He saved it. Went to sleep. The next morning, he read it again. He deleted most of it. What felt like truth at midnight looked like anger in daylight. That one habit saved him from damaging a relationship permanently. You do not need to obey every emotion you experience. Feel it. Observe it. Then choose. 11. Your silence can be a form of strength. Not every situation deserves your reaction. Some people provoke because they want access to your emotions. They want to see you angry. They want to see you explain. They want to see you lose control. When you remain calm, you remove their reward. A man once entered a meeting where another person repeatedly criticized him. The comments were personal. They were unnecessary. Everyone expected him to respond. Instead, he listened. When the other person finished, he simply said, "I understand your position." Then he continued with the work. Later, someone asked why he did not defend himself. He replied, "Because I knew who I was before he spoke." That is powerful. Your identity should not be built from other people's opinions. Sometimes the strongest response is no response. Not because you are weak. Because you are selective. 12. Use the quiet season to build yourself. There will be seasons when nobody is clapping for you. Use them. When nobody is watching, build. Read. Exercise. Learn. Save. Plan. Practice. Improve. The world may not notice immediately. That is fine. A foundation is built underground. Nobody sees it. But without it, the building eventually collapses. Your quiet season is your foundation season. A young man named Samuel decided to spend 1 year improving himself without announcing his plans. He stopped telling everyone what he was going to do. He simply worked. He trained every morning. He studied at night. He reduced unnecessary spending. He learned a new skill. He became more disciplined. After 12 months, people noticed. They asked, "What happened to you?" Nothing happened suddenly. Everything happened quietly. That is the power of consistency. 13. Do not let one bad chapter define your entire story. You failed. So what? You made a mistake. So what? You trusted the wrong person. So what? You wasted time. So what? You are not proud of your past. So what? Your past is information. It is not a life sentence. Imagine reading a book and finding a terrible chapter. Would you throw the entire book away? Not necessarily. You would keep reading. Your life deserves the same patience. Maybe chapter 3 was painful. Maybe chapter 7 was embarrassing. Maybe chapter 10 was filled with mistakes. But you are still writing. And that means the story is not finished. 14. Build a life that does not depend on perfect circumstances. If you tell yourself, "I will be peaceful when everything goes right," you are giving your peace away. Instead say, "I will learn to remain grounded even when everything does not go according to plan." That is real strength. You can be disappointed and still disciplined. You can be sad and still responsible. You can be uncertain and still courageous. You can be rejected and still respectful. You can be alone and still whole. This is what emotional maturity looks like. You stop demanding perfect conditions before you allow yourself to live. 15. Stop asking why you and start asking what next. Why me? Is a natural question. But it rarely moves you forward. What next? Does. You lost the job. What next? The relationship ended. What next? The plan failed. What next? The person betrayed you. What next? You made a mistake. What next? This question moves your attention from the past toward action. A man named Victor lost almost everything after a business failure. He spent months asking why it happened. Then one morning he wrote 2 words on a piece of paper. What next? Underneath it he wrote, learn, rebuild, save, train, try again. That list became his new direction. Years later, he looked back and realized the failure had forced him to become more disciplined than success ever had. Sometimes the question that saves you is not, why did this happen? It is, what can I do now? 16. Trust your ability to rebuild. You have survived things you once thought would destroy you. Remember that. There were days when you thought you would never recover. Yet here you are. There were people you thought you could never live without. You learned to live. There were situations you thought would break you. They became memories. There were failures you thought would define you. They became lessons. Do not underestimate your ability to rebuild. You are stronger than the version of yourself who entered those difficult seasons. You have evidence. Look at your past. You have already survived uncertainty. You have already adapted. You have already changed. You can do it again. 17. Stop needing everything to make sense immediately. Sometimes understanding comes later. You may not know why someone left until years afterward. You may not understand why an opportunity failed until another opportunity appears. You may not recognize the value of a difficult experience until you become stronger because of it. Life often reveals meaning backward. First you experience. Then you learn. Then you understand. Then you appreciate. So give yourself permission not to know. You can say, I don't understand this yet. That is different from, this has no purpose. You do not know the whole story. Keep walking. Keep walking. 18. Your next chapter requires a different version of you. You cannot carry yesterday's habits into tomorrow's life and expect different results. If you want a different future, something inside you must change. Maybe you need stronger boundaries. Maybe you need better discipline. Maybe you need to stop procrastinating. Maybe you need to stop seeking approval. Maybe you need to stop giving your energy to people who give nothing back. Maybe you need to become comfortable saying no. Growth is not always about adding more. Sometimes growth means removing. Remove distractions. Remove excuses. Remove unnecessary arguments. Remove habits that weaken you. Remove environments that constantly pull you backward. The person you want to become may require you to stop being the person who keeps you stuck. 19. Accept that some answers will never come. You may never understand why someone betrayed you. You may never understand why an opportunity disappeared. You may never receive an apology. You may never get closure from the person you wanted it from. But closure does not always come from another person's explanation. Sometimes closure is simply deciding, I will no longer allow this experience to control my future. That is enough. You do not need everyone to apologize before you heal. You do not need everyone to admit they were wrong. You do not need everyone to understand your pain. You can choose peace anyway. 20. Keep moving even when you feel nothing. Motivation is unreliable. Some mornings you will wake up inspired. Other mornings you will feel nothing. That is where discipline matters. You do not have to feel powerful to behave powerfully. You do not have to feel confident to take action. You do not have to feel ready. Sometimes you simply begin. A runner does not wait until every run feels easy. A student does not study only when motivated. A builder does not work only when inspired. Consistency is built by continuing through ordinary days. Your future is not created by one extraordinary moment. It is created by hundreds of ordinary decisions. 21. Protect your peace from your own overthinking. Sometimes the person disturbing your peace is not another person. It is you. You replay conversations. You imagine future disasters. You create scenarios that have not happened. You interpret silence. You predict rejection. You analyze every detail. And suddenly you are suffering from events that exist only in your imagination. When you catch yourself doing this, return to the present. Ask, what do I actually know? Not what do I fear? Not what do I assume? Not what could happen? What do I know? That question can bring you back to reality. 22. Do not let other people's speed make you abandon your path. You will see people succeeding. Let them. You will see someone younger than you achieving things you wanted. Let them. You will see people buying homes, getting married, building businesses, traveling, growing audiences, receiving recognition. Let them. Their success is not proof of your failure. You can admire someone else's progress without insulting your own. There is enough room for different journeys. Your job is not to become someone else. Your job is to become fully yourself. 23. Learn to trust the process without becoming passive. Trusting that things will work out does not mean sitting on the couch waiting for destiny. Trust requires action. If you want better health, train. If you want knowledge, study. If you want money, develop valuable skills. If you want peace, control your reactions. If you want meaningful relationships, become someone capable of creating them. Trust the process, but participate in it. The seed grows, but it still needs water. Your life may have potential, but potential still requires effort. 24. Do not give up during the most confusing part. The middle is difficult. The beginning has excitement. The end has reward. But the middle? The middle has doubt. You have started, but you have not arrived. You have changed, but you do not yet see the results. This is where many people quit. They mistake the absence of visible results for the absence of progress. Do not quit simply because the middle is uncomfortable. Keep going. The bridge is not the destination, but you still have to cross it. 25. Remember that your life can change faster than you think. One conversation can change your direction. One opportunity can change your finances. One decision can change your health. One habit can change your confidence. 1 year of discipline can change your entire identity. Never assume that today's circumstances are permanent. Your life can change, but you must remain available for that change. Do not become so disappointed by yesterday that you reject tomorrow. 26. Become the person who can handle the life you want. This is one of the deepest lessons. You may want success, but can you handle responsibility? You may want money. Can you handle discipline? You may want influence. Can you handle criticism? You may want love. Can you handle vulnerability? You may want freedom. Can you handle uncertainty? The goal is not simply to receive more. The goal is to become capable of carrying more. Sometimes life delays the reward because your character is still under construction. Do not hate the construction. Become ready. 27. Let your past teach you without allowing it to control you. Your past has information. Use it. If you repeatedly trusted the wrong people, learn discernment. If you repeatedly ignored your instincts, learn to listen. If you repeatedly wasted money, learn financial discipline. If you repeatedly abandoned your goals, learn consistency. But do not turn your mistakes into an identity. You made mistakes. You are not a mistake. You experienced failure. You are not failure. Someone rejected you. You are not rejection. Someone left. You are not abandonment. Separate what happened from who you are. 28. Be patient with the version of you that is still learning. You are not going to get everything right. There will be moments when you react badly. You will lose your temper. You will make poor decisions. You will trust someone you should not have trusted. You will procrastinate. You will doubt yourself. Do not use imperfection as an excuse to stop improving. Correct yourself. Apologize when necessary. Learn. Continue. A strong person is not someone who never makes mistakes. A strong person is someone who refuses to remain the same after making them. 29. Stop trying to force the future. The future cannot be bullied into arriving faster. You can prepare. You can work. You can plan. But you cannot command timing. Sometimes the healthiest thing you can say is, "I will do my part, and I will allow the rest to unfold." That sentence contains peace. Do your work. Then release the obsession. You do not need to check every 5 minutes whether your dream is growing. Keep watering the seed. 30. Trust that your life is still being written. This is the message I want you to remember when this video ends. Your life is still being written. That means today's pain is not the final sentence. Today's rejection is not the final sentence. Today's loneliness is not the final sentence. Today's failure is not the final sentence. Today's confusion is not the final sentence. You are still here. And because you are still here, there is still room for change. There is still room for growth. There is still room for opportunity. There is still room for love. There is still room for success. There is still room for peace. So stop looking at one difficult chapter and calling it the entire book. Keep writing. Keep walking. Keep building. Keep becoming. The final message. Maybe right now, your life does not look the way you imagined. Maybe you are standing in the middle of uncertainty. Maybe you have lost people. Maybe you have lost opportunities. Maybe you have lost confidence. Maybe you are tired of starting over. Maybe you secretly wonder whether things will ever get better. Listen to me carefully. You do not need to have everything figured out today. You need to keep moving. There is a difference between being lost and being redirected. There is a difference between being delayed and being denied. There is a difference between being alone and being abandoned. There is a difference between losing something and making room for something new. Your current situation is not necessarily your final destination. Sometimes life has to rearrange everything before you can recognize what belongs where. Think about a puzzle. When you first open the box, the pieces look like chaos. Colors are everywhere. Shapes are scattered. Nothing makes sense. If you judge the puzzle at that moment, you would say, "This is a mess." But the puzzle is not broken. It is simply unfinished. Your life may feel like that. Scattered pieces. Unanswered questions. Unexpected changes. Missing pieces? But unfinished does not mean ruin. It means there is more to come. So trust yourself. Trust your discipline. Trust your ability to adapt. Trust the lessons you have earned. Trust that you can survive uncertainty. Trust that one chapter does not define the book. And most importantly, trust that you do not need to see the entire path before taking the next step. You only need enough courage for today. Tomorrow will ask for tomorrow's courage. Today asks for yours. Maybe the person you are becoming requires everything that is happening right now. Maybe the rejection is strengthening your independence. Maybe the silence is teaching you patience. Maybe the loneliness is teaching you self-respect. Maybe the failure is teaching you discipline. Maybe the delay is teaching you endurance. Maybe the loss is teaching you detachment. Maybe the uncertainty is teaching you courage. Maybe the closed door is teaching you to stop begging for entry. And maybe, just maybe, everything that feels like it is falling apart is actually moving into place. You may not see it yet. But keep going. One day, you may look back at the exact season you are struggling through today and realize, that was not the season that destroyed me. That was the season that built me. So breathe. Stand up. Straighten your shoulders. Stop begging life to become easier. Start becoming stronger. You do not control everything that happens. But you control what you become because of what happens. That is your power. That is your responsibility. That is your inner steel. And if today is difficult, remember this. You are allowed to move slowly. You are allowed to start again. You are allowed to change direction. You are allowed to outgrow people. You are allowed to release what no longer belongs in your life. You are allowed to begin again without explaining yourself to everyone. You are not late. You are not finished. You are not forgotten. You are becoming. And becoming takes time. So trust the process. Trust the work. Trust the lessons. Trust your ability to rebuild. Trust the person you are becoming. And when you cannot see the road ahead, take one more step. Then another. Then another. Because sometimes the road only reveals itself to the person who keeps walking. If this message spoke to something inside you, subscribe to Inner Steel and become part of this community. Here, we are learning to stay calm when life becomes chaotic. We are learning to think deeply instead of reacting emotionally. We are learning to build discipline when motivation disappears. We are learning to walk away without bitterness. We are learning to lose without losing ourselves. We are learning to become stronger without becoming cold. And we are learning one of life's most powerful lessons. You cannot control everything that happens to you, but you can control who you become because of it. So wherever you are right now, keep going. Your story is not over. Your chapter is not finished. Your future has not been decided by one bad day. Keep building. Keep learning. Keep improving. Keep your heart steady. Keep your mind clear. Keep your standards high. And keep moving. Because one day, the pieces will make sense. One day, you will understand why some doors closed. Why some people left. Why some plans failed. Why some opportunities took longer. Why some seasons felt so lonely. And perhaps then you will smile and say, I thought everything was falling apart. But everything was moving into place. This is inner steel. Stay strong. Stay patient. Stay disciplined. And never forget. What is meant to strengthen you may not always feel comfortable while it is happening. Keep walking. Your story is still being written.